Okay, I'm done with this. You get in.
Well, here we are. You know, it was awfully nice of you to come join me, Gohan.
I never really had a choice. He basically kidnapped me.
Oh, come on, Gohan. You can't kidnap your own kid.
I don't know if that's true. I'll have to read up on that.
Sorry, Gohan. No books here. Or internet. Only this room and the void.
Does it do that all the time?
Oh, yeah. But only if you say the word void.
Okay, well, we're gonna avoid that word for now. Why?
Alright, Gohan. First thing we're gonna do is focus on getting you Super Saiyan. Now,
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. We're coming live from the void. Void. It's your old pal Jake, and we got a lot of stuff to go over. Oh boy. Decent chance we're going to do multiple streams, but per the advice of the Wicked community, I'm going to take a whack at doing a Twitch stream later on. And based on the fact that I tried to do one this morning, and that didn't happen, no promises. But took a lot of the stuff wanted to talk about because for this stream right y'all on YouTube, because boy, we got just W after W for the Dems and L after L after L after L for the GOP, and it's gonna keep going this way so long as the parties continue on the paths they are on, which are opposite reactions to the will of the people. Hello, Wicked community. How you doing? Oh, well, hello. We got Zix, Wicked Foxy, Dragon, Wireless Mike. It's good to see y'all. Ooh, look at that. Wireless Mike says, petition signed and back is still jacked. No fun regarding the back, but thank you for having America's back. Because that petition Wireless Mike is referring to is available in the description. And it's also pinned in the live chat. Have a gander. Well, that there is a petition that currently, at least when I last checked an hour ago, has 57,000 signatures. It's on change.org. We're going for 75,000. One thing I like about it is that the work is already done. What's it for? Well, it is for demanding there be federal bans on assault weapons. We don't need them. They do not do anything for Americans beyond spice up the shooting range and kill kids. So sign that petition if you want to get rid of them. It's not certainly a guarantee, but it will make the views of the American people that much more clear. Speaking of, let's get to our top story here. I actually don't even know if I want to call this the top story. Our top story is actually going to be the Tennessee 3 and what's going on with them, but I don't want to get there just yet. Actually, what I'd rather do is talk about book bans, because I've never seen a clearer tell for what these parties are all about. The GOP wants kids ignorant. They are the party of ignorance. Let's do a proper intro, then we're going to talk about it. So right now, around the country, the GOP is working hard to keep kids ignorant. Why, you might wonder? Why do they want children ignorant? Well, that would be because if you have education, if you understand how the world works, one thing you do not do is vote for the grand old party. You don't vote Republican. They've known this for a long time, and they've just become explicit with it of late. Most recently, it's taken the form of defunding libraries. If you support the GOP now, what you support is defunding libraries. Let's have just a quick look at the website called Democracy Now! They did an article on this. We're going to start off with their coverage. Missouri Grand Old Party votes to defund libraries amid a nationwide Republican crackdown on libraries. Let me just stress this. Missouri, and if you are from there, this is a moment to feel shame. Missouri has voted to defund libraries. Okay. Let's have a look at the contents here. In Missouri, the Republican, by the way, it was in retaliation. We're going to get there. In Missouri, the Republican-controlled House on Tuesday approved a budget that completely defunds public libraries. The move came in response to an ACLU lawsuit filed by the Missouri Association of School Librarians and the Missouri Library Association, challenging a recent law that bans certain books. The measure has led to the removal of over 300 books from school libraries, many with LGBTQ characters and social justice topics. Missouri Democrats have denounced GOP censorship. This is State Representative Peter Meredith. Representative Meredith says, I feel like we're starting to live in a dystopian future from like 1984 or Fahrenheit 411 or whatever, 451, thank you. Why we're talking about the book bans from the government and the government being mad at librarians as the threat to our kids and defunding public libraries. That's the real world here today in Republican-led Missouri. Meanwhile, in Texas, and we're about to get to a video of this coverage, Llano County officials are considering shutting down the local public library system after a federal judge ruled the banning of some dozen books, mostly for children, is unconstitutional. The county has been ordered to put the books back in circulation, prompting Llano County commissioners to hold a special meeting later this week to determine whether libraries should close instead of complying with the order. Hey, Republicans and lefties that are showing this to your Republican friends. If you vote Republican, no matter what else you think you're voting for, you are also voting for this. You're supporting shutting down libraries. Think about how low you have to get when you're at a point where you just can't win the conversation unless you end the conversation entirely. You're at a point where you're defunding libraries. Is that you? Quick mirror check. Hold that up to yourself. Is that you? Are you okay with being anti-library? Sure seems like you are. Oh, but we got more on this. Of course, of course, of course. You see, in these Republican-led states, which, by the way, as we've done videos on gerrymandering, I tend to find basically every red state is gerrymandered. You might want to ask yourself why that is, why you can only maintain power. I mean red-led states. Why can you only maintain power? By cheating? Well, it might be because you have policies like we're about to display. Look at more reporting. about how Republicans just can't stand to talk to an educated population. Why do they want you dumb? That's a question to ask.
A Texas county tonight is threatening to figuratively blow up its entire public library system rather than bring back a bunch of banned books like a judge ordered them to do with a librarian who quit after getting harassed, telling our team exclusively about the attacks she faced personally. This is happening in Llano County, Texas, right outside Austin, in a kind of culture war fight over about a dozen books.
Yeah, I tried my best to say that name. Darn it. Double L got me. Llano County. My apologies.
Including kids' books. In the Night Kitchen, I should say, by Maurice Sendak. Larry the Farting Leprechaun. There are books on racism and history.
You know, you can keep Larry the Farting Leprechaun banned. I'm fine with that one, but come on with the rest.
Like they called themselves the KKK, the birth of an American terrorist group. A federal judge said it was unconstitutional to ban them and that they...
Hold up. Now, why, Republicans, why do you reckon your party didn't want a book about the history of the KKK being taught? Why is that? Yeah, to quote a middle-aged church lady, That's a bad policy, and you should feel bad.
These books needed to be put back into circulation. So tomorrow, the county's commissioners are holding a special meeting to decide whether to shut down their libraries altogether and fire the librarians. Not everybody in Llano is happy about that. And some of the locals who originally sued the county over the book bans are planning to show up tomorrow at that meeting. Here's what that former librarian tells us about tomorrow's vote.
Cartoon butts and farts are not pornography. LGBTQ issues, race, classism, those are things that these children are going to encounter out in the real world. And why not encounter those in a book?
Aaron Gilchrist is joining us now here in our Washington studio with more. It's good to see you, Aaron. So walk us through how we got to this point where this county seems to be basically saying, well, if you can't ban the book, get rid of the whole library.
Yeah, it's going to be a packed house on both sides of this issue at that meeting tomorrow night. So this basically started back in December of 2021 when the county decided that they were going to dissolve the library board. They put an advisory group in place of that board and then took about a dozen or so books out of circulation. You had a group of citizens, library card holders, who said, no, we can't stand for this. They filed a federal lawsuit. They said, you know, this is a free speech violation. This is a 14th Amendment due process violation because there was no notice that these books were being taken out of circulation. And they said they were really targeted because of the content in these particular books. The judge just last month issued an injunction that said, yeah, we don't think this is going to hold up against constitutional muster. So put these books back in circulation. They did that for the most part with most of these books at the end of March.
Hey, Republicans. Have you noticed that anytime you win in court, it tends to be a Trump-appointed judge? And even then, you tend not to win in court. Have you noticed that judges appointed by other Republicans, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush in some cases, I mean, there are people that have been sitting there for a real long time. Clinton, Obama, Biden, everybody except Trump seems to rule against MAGA-style decisions. What does that tell you? What does that tell you about the legality of them? This judge just said it was unconstitutional to get rid of these books. What does that tell you? What does that tell you, huh? That's me sarcastically, desperately trying to get Republicans to think. I'm not going to keep addressing Republicans. We got a mostly left-leaning audience. I want to show you the kinds of questions we should be asking of Republicans. At the end of the day, the scum that does this are supported by a voting base which, if they don't necessarily support this stuff specifically, they tell themselves that this stuff is acceptable. to achieve the greater game plan, whatever QAnon supplied thing that is. And it's usually not so dramatic as a conspiracy theory. It's usually like, yeah, I guess I don't like the principle behind this, but the thing is, we got to get rid of this pornography. You got to ask them these questions. You have to make them take responsibility for this behavior. And truly, you don't have to engage in a massive debate. You just have to ask questions. So we're going to keep going with that, but understand, really, folks who are sane, you're who I'm talking to. Just make yourself, when you watch some of this extremist news, the news of what the wildest, least American, most nefarious politicians are doing, which, by the way, is largely at the local level. When you see this, ask MAGA, anyone who is MAGA in your life, ask them how they dare support this behavior and treat them exactly how you would treat me or anyone else in the chat if they said they do support this behavior, because there is no reasonable way to support this. It doesn't mean get angry at them, but it does mean be firm in your principles. You can disagree without having it be an argument, without it being a fight. You just ask the questions. How possibly can you support this behavior?
Fast forward to the last few days here, and you had somebody at a county meeting, who said, you know what? If we can't keep these books off the shelves, just close the libraries altogether.
See ya. Right.
And so that's where we get to the meeting that's coming up tomorrow to see if that happens.
Is it going to pass? What do we think? I mean, do you think they're really going to shut down the library system here because of this fight over banned books?
So one of the in this lawsuit, one of the pieces of evidence that was that they came across in discovery was an email, rather a text message from somebody on the advisory board to another person that said essentially the judge, the county executive, says he'll shut down the libraries rather than let this porn back onto the shelves for kids to have access to.
Just look at those titles. All right, you don't like the Larry the Leprechaun? I was joking about that earlier. You think, oh, let's not talk about bodily functions. Okay. Why do you reckon the book about the KKK, the book about caste systems, is something Republicans don't like? Why do you think that might be? Let me ask you this. If we had a caste system in the United States, what might it look like? Might it be really, really difficult for somebody in the lower caste to make their way into the higher caste? Do you know what a caste system is? MAGA voter, I bet you don't. Remember, the GOP wants peasants. If they could undo the invention of the printing press, they would. They want peasants. They don't want voters.
No
people couldn't see your air quotes around porn, but you were air quoting porn.
We don't know that there's actually anything that most people would judge as pornography in any of these books.
Well, that's a point that this now former librarian was making in this exclusive interview with our team, as she detailed, frankly, Aaron, what it was like for her having worked there under pressure. She says getting harassed and attacked.
Yeah, she and I had a nice long conversation today to talk about her time working at the library, 3 years as an employee at this library, in a place where she grew up. This was her library as a child.
Wow.
And she said, she would leave there carrying armful of books every time she would go there as a child. And now she's in a place where she had to resign in the fall because people were coming in, she said, with overwhelming negativity and accusations about what she was doing in this library. I want to play a little bit of what she said to us earlier today.
People saying that I wasn't a safe person for you to bring your kids around. People saying that I was encouraging your kids to check out inappropriate books. Even so far as I had heard people saying that I was a pedophile, I was grooming kids, just really negative things that didn't represent my whole purpose for working at the library to begin with.
So Tina says she's going to go to this meeting tomorrow. She does not plan to speak. She says the issue is just too emotional for her, but she wants to be there to see whatever happens tomorrow afternoon.
One of the pieces of this, right? I mean, this is happening in Llano County, Texas.
Everybody hold up. I do think there's an advantage to how not professional I was back in the day. I see Midas Touch, for example, and I adore Midas Touch. In fact, I adore Midas Touch for the fact that they have people with a level of expertise on the topics they're talking about that is just unmatched by anybody else. But look, I didn't come from the major leagues. I was the equivalent, if we're talking sports analogies, of a little league softball coach. T-ball. But this country that we're, and frankly, planet that we're trying to fix, well, most of the ball games played are by intramural, unprofessional leagues. And that's us, folks. So in my local media days, then just about the most reliable news story we could get was attending local meetings. Yep, city council meetings. And the one decent thing about COVID, all of them started being streamed. I literally can't think of a town I covered that didn't start streaming, like to YouTube, its city council meetings or town council meetings or whatever the hell. Here's a true fact. They are largely, not exclusively, but largely attended by the far right. That ain't right. What I would love to see is for lefties to start making appearances. At the very least, you're talking about a 2-hour stream maybe once every couple of weeks. Just check in. Check in on what they're up to. You can off the your town's website, the local government website, you can see what they're going to be talking about. If any of it is of interest to you, you can chime in. Do this. Do it. You will have a massive effect on how your government operates. You'll have a massive effect on how the state and eventually national government operates. You want to know where the Overton window is primarily established? It's not in the White House. It's in wherever your town council meets. The biggest issue the left faces right now is that we're unfamiliar with the levers of power, and the right is extraordinarily familiar with them. It's just part of their culture to call and complain to their representatives. It's just part of their culture to write angry emails and letters to their representatives. It's just part of their culture to show up to town council meetings. It's just part of their culture to run for the school board. And as a result, because they've made politics part of their culture, as a result, the far right has a disproportionate hold on the levers of power in America. Let's take those away from them because they have demonstrated they shouldn't have them. Show up to these things. And by the way, once in a while, somebody knocks it out of the park at one of these things and they go viral. That could be you. Go viral. Not because you want to be popular. Not because you want an internet, social media, blah, blah, blah. But because it'll do some good in the world.
It is also part of a broader national conversation and issue that people are having, I think, in lots of places around the country over what's appropriate, what, say, parents should have versus, let's say, librarians or teachers. I mean, this fits into a bigger so-called culture war issue. Yeah, it really does. We've been looking at and hearing about these book bans in different places around the country for a couple of years now, really. And we particularly looked at some data from PEN America. It's an organization that supports literary and
I need to accept a piece of shame here. Michigan has between, what is that? Oh, it's not as bad as I was thinking. That's a weird way to to code that. Wait a minute. Let me see this here. Is Michigan the 26 to 50 bands? I don't get what 51 to 250. Why is that pure white? That's a terrible, terrible way to chart out this map. Good God. Anyway, I'm gonna be optimistic and say Michigan has 26 to 50 bands, as does Wisconsin. That's a crying shame. I will attend to that. You have my word, as your old pal Jake. We're gonna address this again in the future. There is no excuse for that.
Free expression, and they track book bans, school library book bans in particular. So you're looking at a map here in 21-22, that school year. There were 25.
Also, praise where it's due. If you're from one of those states with 0 bans, good job. Good job. Louisiana, that deserves some credit. Surrounded by right-wingers. Literally surrounded. And yet you've managed to hold your head high in this era. Good job.
500 book bans impacting about 1,600 different titles. You see there primarily Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, some of the places where we see most of the book bans in that particular school year. And we talked to the folks at PEN America about the growth in these bans. Listen.
Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that what started as a conversation, or at least a movement attacking public schools, has in many states now become about public libraries.
And we should mention, too, Hallie, that we did reach out to the county executive there, the county judge, and some other folks who are defendants in this case, and they didn't return our calls.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, but we'll be watching the meeting tomorrow.
We sure will. We'll have you back. Let's book you now. Thank you, Aaron Gilchrist. Good to see you. Appreciate it.
There's a Gilchrist in my state I'm going to talk to about this. The man's name is Garland. He's a big damn nerd. He's got the body proportions and height of Gumby, and he's also a pretty damn reliable leftist that I respect. I'll be talking to him about this. See what the wicked community has to say. Wow, Oregon, says Zix1326, has some banned books, including The Color Purple. That surprises me. Yeah, Oregon, that's a weird one. I don't know. Oh, I said Oregon because I used to play Oregon Trail, which is how I said it then. Zix also says, I was watching a vid complaining about a game where there was a rabbit who just killed everybody. I had to laugh because the guy completely missed the reference. So did I. Oh, gosh. Wireless Mike says, as someone with Irish ancestry, a rainbow farting leprechaun is just plain funny. Sorry, Lucky, that's no pot of gold. Yeah, man. Look. Good news on this. You can do something that is going to be very effective. Bring this up to voters. Bring it up to left-wing voters. Bring it up to right-wing voters. When you are talking about why you are voting the way you're voting, add this to your list. One sentence. Republicans ban libraries. Republicans are anti-library. It's a pretty good reason not to vote for them. If that doesn't convince someone not to vote for the GOP, that's, you might even say that's a good way to tell if they are possible to convince, if they're being honest about their beliefs. I suspect, however, the people who have a knee-jerk reaction to saying, no, I stand by this because, when you see that hesitation, when you see them stretching for whatever, you are seeing them in real time realize that they're the baddies. And they might, look, social development is what it is. They might not in the moment agree that this isn't the party for them. But when you've asked the question and they feel themselves, they feel that horrible moment where they feel about 2 inches tall and they can't come up with a good reason why they support this. When that happens, you will have made progress. We have a year and a half to chip away at the insanity that these people believe. And it's going to be moments like this that we use to make progress. So don't expect, I know. I say if they're not even willing to consider it, then they're not okay. I'm also saying don't expect in one conversation for this to be an instant win. But understand that these are the kind of conversations that you'll have to have and that we have the opportunity to have before 2024 that will move people away from the insanity. I have no idea what's on my lip. Did I shave too much? I think I might have cut into the mustache a little bit. Apologies if you're a first-time watcher. But this is par for the course. Oh boy. I was trying really. That first thing I think is perhaps more important in terms of what you can do, but there's something I've just been champing at the bit to tell y'all about. Folks, you might be aware of two representatives from Tennessee that were recently expelled. They're part of the Tennessee Three, and the two that were expelled were the Justins, Justin Pearson, Justin Jones. It was a low moment in America when these two fellas got booted from the seats they were representing. They got kicked out, of course, because they dared to protest the gun violence in our country. We're going to talk about a new update with that, but first, I got to hit record. The Tennessee Three includes two members who were kicked out of their seats. That's Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Well, good news. That didn't last all that long, because the people got to say who was going to represent them in the interim. And they selected Justin Jones and Justin Pearson.
I do not take this vote lightly.
The integrity of this House has been...
Ooh, wait a minute. That ain't even what I want to show you. This is what I want to show you. We're going to get to that in a moment. That's just the start. There is something else, though. This is from none other than Fox News. It's my great pleasure to show you this right here. Memphis panel to vote on reinstating Justin Pearson of Tennessee 3 Wednesday, rejoining Justin Jones. And I'll tell you, that panel voted to reinstate the man.
Inferior insulation like
Great.
This, or no insulation at all.
A Memphis panel is expected to vote Wednesday, they did, on whether to reinstate Tennessee lawmaker Justin Pearson, they did, who along with fellow Democrat Representative Justin Jones gained national recognition and praise from the White House. Yeah, spotlight got on him, rightly so, after being booted from the Republican-run state legislature for using a bullhorn and speaking out of turn. How dare those black fellas speak out of turn on the House floor regarding gun control. Democrats Pearson, Jones, and Representative Gloria Johnson, dubbed the Tennessee Three, faced possible expulsion for disorderly behavior after they interrupted a House session on March 30th in the wake of a shooting carried out. Oh, I do love when you're reading a Fox article. Carried out by a transgender activist at a Christian school that left 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults dead just 3 days prior. The takeaway from that being a mentally unstable person shot 12 people. 6 people. Johnson, who is white and reportedly did not use a bullhorn to engage gun control protesters, survived by one vote, whereas the state house voted Thursday to expel Jones and Pearson, who are both black. Tennessee House Republicans, who hold a 75-23 supermajority, denied allegations of racism after expelling the black lawmakers, who the party said led disrespectful and deliberate efforts to disrupt business. In other words, they got themselves into what is known as good trouble. Update on that little article: Pearson and Jones were both restored to their seats, at least temporarily. But it gets even better, you see. It gets even better. And that is because newly readmitted representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, since they are now considered new members, are allowed to submit 15 bills each. Know what they plan to use those 15 bills for? Well, that'd be gun control. So, let's just recap events regarding the Tennessee Three. Republicans, as always, decided to do nothing when children and teachers were murdered at a school by the same kind of gun that's always murdering folks in the United States. In response to that, Jones, Pearson, and Johnson, now dubbed the Tennessee Three, they led a protest. Because their constituents were being murdered, and the representatives in Tennessee weren't willing to do anything about it. So these ones, the Tennessee Three, led a protest, and for daring to demand that the representatives get to work and protect the citizens. Well, the rest of the Tennessee representatives there, they booted out the two black members of the Tennessee Three. Not only were they overruled by more powerful forces, being the people in the panel, now those representatives can submit 15 bills. And because they can submit those bills, the Tennessee Republicans are going to have to vote no 15 times for protecting their constituents. Is it a totally positive story? No. We would be better served to live in a country where there is not one party just letting its constituents be murdered, of course. But the good news is the bad guys are dummies. They're real dumb. And the good guys are real smart. They're tenacious, and the people support them. And it gets better. Now I want to show you that other video. Because elsewhere, you get to see what it looks like when Republicans boot somebody under correct circumstances.
I do not take this vote lightly.
The integrity of this House has been jeopardized.
With 46 of the House's 60 members voting in favor,
The board has decided her fate.
Representative Liz Harris was expelled from the Arizona House of Representatives.
This was an example of how you need to toe the line. You need to toe the line. If you don't toe the line, this is what happens.
But Harris wasn't removed for not towing the line, but for disorderly behavior. In essence, for lying and concealing information about what was to be presented at a February election meeting.
Secretary, please call the roll.
That's where a speaker that Harris invited made outlandish and false claims, accusing the Church of Latter-day Saints of money laundering and state officials like the Republican House Speaker and Governor Katie Hobbs of taking bribes from the cartels.
Arizona public officials accepting bribes include members of the legislature, the executive branches of the state government, more than 24 judges on the Maricopa County Superior Court.
The claims were easily disproven, and the Ethics Committee investigation found Harris was in constant communication with the Speaker and knew the details of the presentation despite claims to the contrary.
Once again, I stand with the truth and I stand with integrity.
But the majority of her...
That lady that just said she stands with the truth. Great piece of editing there by that news station. That lady that just said she stands with the truth clearly doesn't, because she lied. The ethics investigation demonstrated that she lied. So no, she doesn't stand with the truth. She, in fact, is a liar. That's just a statement of reality you're going to have to deal with, no matter where you stand. She is a liar.
Her Republican counterparts disagreed.
Yesterday, when I got the document, the whole disclosure, I actually took a highlighter and I went through it all.
Representative David Livingston joined 17 other Republican members voting for her removal, who believes the expulsion was needed to both hold her accountable.
Pack your and walk out. How you feel about that box? Is that heavy? Is it heavy? Yeah. Don't worry, you're not going to have to bring it back.
And maintain the chamber's integrity.
It was necessary. The members that just voted today will always remember if they press green or red. Always.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news.
No worries, brother. Yeah, this is another one to share with the MAGA folks in your community. If you get a chance, show the contrast. Why some people should be expelled, and why they're MAGA. But more importantly, let's get to the initial issue that the Tennessee Three were talking about. Pinned in the live chat and available in the description of the VOD and, hell, the live show, is a petition to federally ban assault weapons. Sign that. The petition could get 10 million signatures, and on its own, it will not ban assault weapons. But what it will do is give the people who want to ban assault weapons something to point to say, look, the people of America agree with this. So help them out. Sign the thing. Change.org is a wonderful organization. It's not used entirely for good, and I think that speaks to its credit. It is a tool. Let's use it. It is a way to aggregate the opinions of Americans. Let us show that Americans are sick of kids getting murdered in school. And of course, pay attention to politics in your state, and don't be afraid to let your representative know what you think of their decisions, regardless of what party they're in. You can find your representatives with a link available in the description. Ooh, let's have a look at what the wicked community. Dustin Buck, see if you can ban guns. Why can't we ban cell phones and automobiles? Well, let's address that. It's a great question. What stops anybody from doing that? You got 13 signatures on your little petition now. We have to listen to you? First of all, on my petition, we got 15 signatures. So get your facts straight. Second, that's not my petition. That is a petition with 57,000 signatures currently on it. I'm trying to knock it up to 75. But you asked the question, which is a fair one. See, if you can ban guns, why can't we ban your cell phones and automobiles? Well, the thing is, we do. We ban their use while driving. That is illegal. Now, there's a conversation to be had about how dangerous misusing a cell phone while driving is, and how do we pair that with enforcement. And what America seems to have arrived at, which I think I agree with, is that a police officer can pull you over and write you a ticket if you're caught fiddling around with your cell phone while you're driving. So, yes, in short, that's correct. In fact, let's just keep that going. Imagine for a moment that you had a license required, just like you have a license required to use a car. You had a license required to own a firearm, and you could get it revoked for irresponsible use of that firearm, like, say, lending it out willy-nilly. That's the sort of thing I'm advocating for. Also from Dustin Buck, bro, you are a joke. Yeah, you should bring a petition to ban all cell phones and driving, then we can just be done with all of this. You can feel safe in your own little world, and we just have to live with it. Yeah, as I said, we've already got that, and I think it's good. Leon Chevalier says, and a higher standard of living. Oh, I didn't see the comment that led into that. And I don't have the context, but it looks like an interesting conversation going on in the comments. But hey, you're in the Wicked community. Remember, if you're right, ain't no reason to be angry. So be right. Show them why. If you got a case to make it. But remember, baby, we're cold as ice here. And it's good to see you again, Dustin Buck. I know you tend not to agree with my stances on things, but I do appreciate having opinions from outside of the old echo chamber, because I don't want this to be an echo chamber. And to you specifically, Dustin Buck, let me pitch you Friday Peace Talks. If you think I'm misinformed, for example, if you think the rest of these folks are misinformed, help inform us. Friday Peace Talks, find a 9 o'clock, it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, the show starts. Find a clip that you think we should watch to get educated, and we'll watch it together, live. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I've done it before. In fact, look on Salty Saturday, a men's rights activist convinced me of a point he was making. Not that your old pal Jake can't be swayed, but we are going to look at these pieces critically, and this is where things might make you a little nervous. We're going to fact check what the person's saying. But we'll do it live so you can see it, and if you disagree with the fact check, you can express why you disagree with it. Overall, I think it's a healthy thing for us to do, because if we don't want to just, have all the two political parties go into one giant alley with a bunch of chains and knives and work it out once and for all, if that's what we're trying to avoid, well, gosh, we should probably make an effort to understand what each other is thinking and why we think it. Speaking of, let's talk about Rudy Giuliani. I think this might be good for us all to hear. During the time that the Trump team was well, I just realized I haven't stopped recording the old thing. Let me record this intro here, because I want to clip this for sure. During the time the Trump team was really going hard on the big lie, as it's known, there was, of course, on-air debates about fraud here or fraud there. And in the course of the Dominion lawsuit, we have learned that even though the lawsuit is not about January 6th, we did learn some facts that are going to be relevant. And whether you agree with the big lie or not, the fact is Trump's team was aware that it was a lie when they were telling it. And the fact is, this is probably going to come up in court. when the attempted coup is dealt with by the law, which, again, no matter how you feel about that attempted coup, A, that's what it was. It's what international organizations call it, whose job it is to track coups. And number two, I'm going to insist, and millions of people like me are going to insist, that we hash this out in a court of law. So it will be done, and you should be aware of the kind of evidence that you're going to see. We're getting a little preview through the Fox Dominion lawsuit, because here is a recording of Rudy Giuliani and company talking about the facts that they knew, and more importantly, what they knew not to be true.
If there is one thing we have learned from the Fox Dominion lawsuit, it is this. What Fox does on air and what Fox employees think and say off air, well, those are not always in sync. And tonight we have exclusive, newly released audio that shows that when it came to the big lie itself, even the central players knew there was no there there. But let me back up. A few weeks ago, a former senior producer of Tucker Carlson's show, who used to be a senior producer for Fox News host Maria Bartiromo's show, a woman by the name of Abby Grossberg, she sued Fox News. Essentially, Ms. Grossberg believed she was being set up as the scapegoat or the fall guy in the gigantic Fox Dominion defamation lawsuit. Grossberg claims that Fox attorneys coerced, intimidated, and misinformed her to influence her deposition before Dominion lawyers last year. And so now, former Fox News producer Abby Grossberg is expected to be a witness for Dominion. And man, she has the receipts.
Just for the record, I don't give a GD about Grossberg, but this does line up with the pattern we've seen so far. There has generally been the lowest person on the totem pole who's taken the worst hits. But what I'm interested in is not Grossberg. It's the recordings she gave.
It turns out that Abby Grossberg had been recording, using an app on her phone, discussions between Bartiromo and key figures in this case.
Okay, one more local news thing. True fact, if you have anybody who you talk to who works in the local news, odds are you are recorded on their cell phone. Why is that? Is it because they like recording everybody they know? No. One of the cheapest, easiest ways you can get a phone interview done is to use one of those free recording apps that are available. And I was taken down memory lane when they talked about this. I have so many recordings of my mama telling me to grab milk because you get these things, you set them to auto start when you start a phone conversation. My point is, when you hear about this, you might wonder, well, why is she recording? It's a fair question, but actually in the news industry, this is extremely common. So normally I make fun of right-wingers for like, you're always recording each other. In this case, it's like there's nothing, there's no tea to be had there, I guess, is all I'm saying. So I'm going to withhold the teasing about that and yada yada, because a news producer, well, news being a generous word, but a TV producer who does interviews, it makes sense that she would have recorded things, probably accidentally, but maybe intentionally. Regardless, that's not an unusual thing.
Figures like Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani and Trump campaign officials themselves. Grossberg told Fox's lawyer she had these types of recordings. She was pretty upfront about that, but Fox never handed them over to Dominion during the discovery process. So today, Abby Grossberg's legal team played parts of 2 of those recordings in court. And after hearing them, the judge decided to sanction Fox News for withholding evidence. So if Dominion wants to, Dominion could conduct more depositions on Fox News's dime. Judge's orders. Now, we don't know if Dominion is actually going to do that, but these tapes were explosive enough that the judge literally sanctioned Fox News for not sharing them. Abby Grossberg and her legal team have let us have these recordings tonight. So without further ado, this is Rudy Giuliani and Fox News host Maria Bartiromo talking off air on November 8th, 2020.
Dustin Buck, for your pleasure, I'm going to leave Alex Wagner, who I assume is a political enemy of yours, up there looking dumb for a second. I genuinely want to know, and folks, be kind here. What do you think of these recordings? Let's not spoil it with our take. I genuinely want to know, does this change at all how you feel about what you heard about the big lie, bearing in mind these recordings are from like December of 2020. And they kept on saying these things.
Off air,
Let me know.
Mr. Giuliani seems pretty candid about the fact that he really has no evidence that there is anything wrong with the Dominion voting machines.
I'm going to be asking you for as much evidence as you can tell us about these lawsuits. Whatever you can tell us in terms of evidence would be really helpful. Okay, great. Is there anything you want to make sure that I get to?
I can tell you exactly what we have.
Perfect. And what about this software, this Dominion software?
That's a little harder
troubling
to tell you right. It's being analyzed right now. I mean, there are a couple of races that have been reversed because the Democrat was triple counted, two already in Michigan. Now, whether that applies for the whole state.
For the record, that turned out to be wrong, but let's let it keep going because this is about what they acknowledged at the time.
Or not, I can't tell you yet.
This Dominion software, does Nancy Pelosi have an interest in it?
I've read that. I can't prove that yet.
Okay.
Can't prove that. That was Rudy Giuliani, the face of the big lie, privately downplaying that he knew anything about Dominion voting machines. And then there is this conversation from...
Don't get too excited. First of all, the important thing, he just said, I can't prove that. Conversely, to the public, he said, we're going to prove in court that Dominion, oh, it's Dominion. Constantly. Can't prove it, he says. And then there's this.
December 5th, 2020. This is a call between Maria Bartiromo and Trump campaign officials themselves.
Trump's people.
Are any of the machines, I know it was on War Room the other day with Steve Bannon, have any of the machines been looked at? He had said that one was looked at in Georgia.
I'd have to check on that in terms of Georgia. I know during the audit they did check on those machines. They're really, if we can just go off the record for 1 sec here.
Yeah, of course. I don't want us to say it if it's not. That's why we're checking.
I think they have looked at the machines. When the Secretary of State did its audit, there was a fair bit of looking at the machines. The audit came in pretty darn close to what the machine count was with the receipts. So, I don't know the outcome of those, but our understanding, again, this is from the Secretary of State's office, was that there weren't any physical issues with machines on those inspections.
Again, that was on December 5th, 2020. Trump campaign officials saying there weren't any physical issues with Dominion voting machines. There's a fair bit of looking at those machines, Ms. Bartiromo, but all the figures were pretty darn close to what they were supposed to be. The whole voting machines conspiracy, according to the Trump officials, kind of a nothing burger. Or at least that was what they said in private.
That is what they said in private. Dizzy9 with the $3. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Let me have a look. Dustin Buck says, dumb, just dumb. That's all I can say. Interesting. My case is if I do something stupid and you have a gun, you should be able to stop me. This is not complicated. That's the old video, though. Oh, what the hell? We'll address that. You should be. There are women out there that need self-defense assault rifles. You think a lady to defend herself requires an assault rifle as opposed to a handgun? I mean, surely a 6-shooter. It was good enough for Wild Bill. You're telling me a lady can't defend herself with a 6-shooter? There's a lady in this audience which would defend herself just fine with a good old-fashioned wheel gun. Or, pistol with 10 shots in the magazine. Semi-automatic handgun seems fine for self-defense. What are you talking about? Assault rifle to defenders? That's not going to fit in a purse or a pocket. I don't know what to tell you. That logic seems off to me. But I'm curious to know what you think about this. What do you think about the fact that Trump's team, in 2 phone calls, acknowledging they don't have evidence? I'm not asking you, did these people say, we're doing a conspiracy and we really want to make it look like somebody stole the election, so help us with that. No, I'm asking you, what do you think about the fact that they didn't have any evidence? And they admitted they don't have any evidence. And they said, we can't talk about evidence on TV because we don't have it. If they didn't have evidence, what was this all about? If they didn't have evidence, what was this all about? They had thoughts. They had hunches. They had suspicions. They didn't have evidence. They didn't have proof. We looked. Bill Barr looked. Bill Barr, it's available for your consumption. If you want to find out what happened, you can. Bill Barr, Attorney General at the time, got the Justice Department involved. There were investigations done at Trump's request. They got nothing. And they told Trump they had nothing. But Trump didn't tell you that. In other words, Trump lied to you. Dustin Buck, you got lied to by Donald Trump. That's what I'm telling you. That's what she's showing you. You don't have to agree with me on anything politically. But the facts, baby, those is the facts. You got lied to. And I genuinely want to know how you feel about it. Here, let me play devil's advocate. I'm okay with Donald Trump lying to me because I wanted him lying to you. And if he had to lie to me to lie to you, then that's okay with me. But then I'm going to ask you, why? Why is a lie at all acceptable? We have to go down this road. Dustin Buck. And the group you are representing. First of all, welcome to the Wicked Chat. We got to talk about this. We have to talk about this. We have to be serious adults about this. A hell of a lot was done based off a lie. People literally died based off this lie. I don't care how many. I don't care if you think it was for the greater good. You need to address the reality. This was a lie, and people died. Trump got put into office largely because people were fed up with the swamp. People were fed up with our leaders not being held to the same standard we are. If I screamed fire in a theater and people ran out of that theater, and somebody got trampled to death, and there was no fire, and I knew there was no fire, and there was text showing that I told my friends an hour before, I'm going to yell fire, not because I think there's a fire, but because I think it's funny to see people flee. I would go to prison for that behavior, and rightly so. And whether or not people like your old pal Jake would have nothing to do with it, because the fact would be that I broke the law and got someone killed. That happened on January 6th. That happened. We have to deal with this. And we have to genuinely talk about this. And when I say we, I mean you and the crowd you represent, and me and the crowd I represent, and the wicked community, the crowd they represent. We have to agree on what reality is. And then we should talk about what to do about that reality. So if you have objections to what Ms. Wagner just presented, to the recording of Giuliani and a Trump campaign staffer admitting that they did not have evidence for the big lie, despite the fact that Donald Trump went on saying it. Show it to us. Show us your counterpoint. Because right now I don't see one.
Because here was Trump on the same day, December 5th, 2020.
In one Michigan county using Dominion voting systems, nearly 6,000 votes were discovered that were wrongly switched from Trump to Biden. They called it a glitch. You know,
not accurate.
Just like the machine broke.
Was a lie.
Numerous times we found glitches, and every single time the glitch went 100% to Biden and no percent to Trump. The same systems are used
Also
in 30
lies.
states. Believe me, this is something we're going to do because we can't allow it to happen. And complete overhaul of our election security systems, because right now, Dominion is a joke, okay? Not a very funny joke. It's a disgrace that in 2020, no state in America even makes any real attempt to verify that those who cast ballots by mail are eligible and lawfully registered voters. The evidence of fraud is overwhelming.
One thing in public.
Really want to also stress, just every point he made there was not accurate. Does nothing to vet their voters. I mean, come on, man. It's simply not true. I don't know what to tell you beyond that. Go state by state. Look at what is required to become a voter. Yes, they have to be able to verify your identity. And yes, they do verify your identity. And by the way, yes, there is voter fraud in every election. Truly. It skews heavily Republican, and it's usually a handful of people. And a courtesy that is not earned by Republicans has been given to them by not stressing that every time it's discussed. Because there's so few cases of voter fraud, it's really not that big a deal. But some knucklehead, yes, every election takes a whack at it. And they get caught. Because in every state, there are rather effective methods for determining whether or not a vote is legitimate.
Another thing entirely in private. And this is no minor detail. This is the core of the big lie. Here is a taste of how Fox News continued to cover Dominion voting systems after that December 5th phone call.
We're looking into the Dominion voting machines with this new forensic examination.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an...
I want you to pay attention to something. You see Jenna Ellis up there? Just to make this point really, really clear, she just admitted in a court of law, you won't hear this on Fox, she just admitted that she was lying when she said this. Knowingly lying. Her words, under oath. You can read them. She admitted that she was lying when she said this. Knowingly lying to you. Do you watch Fox? Did you see her say that? She lied to you. What do you think about that? I genuinely want to know.
Investigation that has taken a few weeks. It'll take time. But what we have now is such significant and overwhelming evidence that there is voter fraud. There is a lot of irregularities and just complete disregard for the laws in these states.
Now we get to Detroit, and we have a truck that pulled in at 4:30 in the morning with 100,000 votes. And we have a machine, the Dominion machine, that's as filled with holes as Swiss cheese.
Remember, he said he had no proof of any of this. No proof whatsoever. This is just something he's saying. It's no different than a Facebook post from your wacky uncle. It's just bullshit.
And was developed to steal elections and being used in the states that are involved. So there's a lot that's going to come out here over the next month or so.
Tens of thousands of ballots were being illegally dropped. The machines are the worst. Dominion, nobody even knows who owns it. These machines
Not
are
accurate.
controlling our country. So it was a rigged election. It was
Nope.
really a sham and
He
a shame.
just lost.
One thing in public, another thing in private. Again, I do not know if Dominion will choose to do another round of depositions because of this. The trial is slated to start Monday, so more depositions could mean delaying that trial. But even if Dominion chooses not to, these recordings sound fairly damning in terms of what they do to undercut the big lie. Rudy Giuliani, Trump's own campaign officials, the core of that whole conspiracy is just nothing.
I mean, my God. We had a coup over that, folks. People literally tried to overthrow the government over the lies being told on that network by those people. Now we have them recorded saying that they knew it was a lie. They knew it wasn't true. They knew they didn't have even a little scrap of proof because they were fun make-em-ups. Let's have a look. Dustin, impress me here. Come on. Tell me you got in on this. No, you didn't. Well, look, I hope you will choose to tell me what you think of that if you're still here, Dustin Buck. Because let me tell you, you've been getting the business from a lot of the folks in the Wicked community. I've seen it. And you've been sticking around. I'm impressed. That takes guts. I commend that. But also, we're going to insist that you deal with reality. This is reality. If you can't get past this, if you can't start talking about where you are wrong as well as where you think you're right, you will never grow as a human. And let me show you what it looks like when somebody eats their goddamn hat publicly. Patrick Kibido says, it was true, Jake, but they found the mistake and quickly corrected it. The county commissioner was on 60 Minutes talking about it. This was in Antrim County, Michigan. I think he's referring to the votes flipping. Yeah. There was there was votes miscounted for Biden in Antrim County, and a big damn deal was made about it. And in fact, the Antrim County board got harassed consistently by the GOP. That's completely correct, and I shouldn't have said didn't happen, just straight out, because you're right, it did happen, and I was wrong about that. However, the exaggerations with it, and the fact that it wasn't mentioned by Trump that it was quickly corrected, speaks, I think, as well to the fact that Trump never cared about the truth. He just cared about telling you a story. Leon Chevalier says, Jake, is the American system of democracy effed up? Yes, it is. Both structurally and in terms of how it's run. So the design of the machine and the piloting of it, both are effed up. I'll go into detail in a moment, but we have a couple of updates. Let's deal with what must be dealt with. Let's triage. Let's deal with the most important thing first. Zoe thinks you are ignoring her, Jake, says Wicked Foxy Dragon. She's talking to you again. Well, Zoe's a good girl? Zoe's a very good girl. Thank you, Zoe. You good girl. And I'm not going to say TREAT, but I want you to know I'm tempted. Oh, I'm tempted. Oh, I see. Wireless Mike says, Dustin is gone, ran away with his tail tucked between his legs. Yeah. I thought that might happen when we started talking about the recordings. But hey, look, Wicked community, these are genuine opportunities to convert, and I would encourage you through the live chat, especially when we get a Trumper here, like a true blue MAGA supporter, I guess true red MAGA supporter. I would say use it as training. You know, just like Mormon teens practice with like their pals in the lunchroom. their conversion practices. In a secular way, let's do that here. You know you're going to get hit with all kinds of mud, but the thing is, baby, we're so clean it doesn't matter. Don't let them get under your skin, ever. If they say something absolutely abhorrent, shock them by not getting mad about it. Every time you feel anger well up, change it into a question. And not an accusatory question. It's hard to learn, but change it into a, why do you think that? Where did you come up with that conclusion? You will find the longer they have to talk seriously, the more they talk themselves out of their own wackadoo opinions. I have never had it fail to take somebody on the MAGA side farther left. Doesn't make them very left at all, but farther left just by relentlessly asking polite questions. Leon Chevalier says, as little as it is, that's the fight back. What is this refer to? Yo, hey, hell yeah. Patrick Kibido says, yes, Leon, I am also one of the first 20 or so subscribers to the channel. Yes, you are, sir. And, man, I got to tell you, with this crew that's here at what I hope is the early days of something that lasts for a while, I feel this need to grow the channel so that you all can feel like you're part of something gigantic. Can you imagine how it's going to feel for this crew that's here when we're at, 2,300 subs? When we're at 50,000? Yeah. 100,000? Hell yeah. We're going to have to come up with a name for the OGs, I'm telling you. Why is it that Northwestern Europe countries ranked happiest? They did and didn't. What is Northwestern Europe countries? Norway is surprisingly unhappy, isn't it? Does that count as... I went to American public school. My knowledge of geography isn't great. Let's talk about the system for how American politics works. Leon Chevalier gave us a great intro to the next segment. But first, I really do want to tell you what you can do about this. And that is, as we've just seen, ask MAGA folks what they think of Dominion updates. They need to see they've been lied to. Y'all, did you see how fast Dustin Buck booked it? Because they know this isn't good. And they're going to have a hard time defending this. So take advantage of that. Punch the wound. We're fighting for our lives. Yeah, ask MAGA folks about the Dominion updates, and you will find that we do more chipping away, and we're going to break through into that echo chamber. We only need to convert a handful for them to act as a pipeline. We're going to do it, and we will be successful. I think sooner rather than later. Because it's just too juicy, you know? People want to find out what Rudy Giuliani secretly said. Use it. It is juicy. It is fascinating. So ask MAGA folks what they think. So what were we doing? Oh, right. Leon Chevalier, you asked such a good question. What's wrong with the American system? Well, Shark 3's... shoot, I got to record again. We're doing a new way of doing this, and it does make upload faster, but there's downsides. All right, let's take another whack at this. Leon Chevalier asked a fantastic question in the chat there. Is the American system of democracy fair? Is it democratic? Is it good? Do we like it? No, is the answer. The more you know about it, by and large, the less you like it. My answer to you, Leon, was twofold. Number one, it's not run well, and number two, it's not set up well. In terms of run well, you have what we've shown earlier. There's psychopaths defunding libraries. And then there's, of course, gerrymandering, which we're going to touch on in a moment. In addition, it's not set up well. We got 50 states, and we have representatives from districts in those states, and they make up the House. So it's very much like the parliamentary system, I suppose, in that way. But we have this one other thing, where every state gets 2 senators, no matter the population of the state. That means if you live in a state with a very small population, and you don't have to interact with, say, people with other religions or skin colors or things like that, your vote, your representation is much more than people from a very populated state. And that system of senators makes it inherently skewed towards landowners, essentially. People in states with low population where they have a lot of land. Or just frankly, states with low population. In addition, we have the Electoral College, which decides our presidencies. And that is where the states have a certain number of votes for president each, and that is based off their population, but it ain't exactly. It's not a perfect way to measure it, to the point that, with the exception of George Bush in 2003, a Republican hasn't won the popular vote in like 30 years. A Republican president hasn't won the popular vote in like 30 years. So it is not a true representative democracy. There is a fella on the internet, which I recommend folks watch, by the name of Shark30. I think is his handle there. Regardless of how you say his name, old Sharky makes a great point, and I clipped a bit of his stream. There's a link to the full stream in the description. But here he is.
A conservative genuinely believes. Let's do a little thought experiment, okay? Especially for some people who aren't like fully bought in. A little thought experiment, all right? To understand like why this is insane. Let's take you have like 105 people, okay? You have 105 people at a party, and the party host goes, we're getting food, should we order pizza or wings? Okay? And I want you to step in one of these, like, step in like one of these circles or something. You can vote for if you want pizza or wings. 100 people want pizza.
Just for the record, he's explaining how the senator system works, I think, during this part of the stream. But this is a perfect way to describe how gerrymandering ends up working. So that is why I'm showing it. No more
pizza, but 5 people want wings. And so what do you think you should probably do in that situation? When 100 people want pizza in a party full of 105 people, but 5 people want wings, you should probably go with, and you can only get one, you should probably go with the pizza. Way more people want pizza than they do wings. And that makes sense normally. What conservatives think is actually fair, how they want to run the country, is there's 105 people. You want to order pizza and wings. Pizza or wings. You have to choose. And so you vote. But instead of voting as in like you cast one person, one ballot, as in one person, one ballot, as in like one person's vote is just one vote. What they enjoy, what they like, what makes people think we're like super conservative is they go, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll draw one circle around the 100 people that want pizza, and then we'll draw 5 circles around each individual person that wants wings. And now instead of one person, one vote, each circle gets one vote. And so now you have 105 people 100 want pizza, 5 wants wings. But the votes come out to 1 for pizza and 5 for wings. An overwhelming victory for wings. And that's what Republicans genuinely believe democracy should be. And that's why they always post those maps that are like, oh, look how Republican the country really is. The country's so red. When like they have like when it comes to some of their states, like half of the state being like a single congressional district.
I mean, there it is in a nutshell, or a pizza box, or a wing barrel. The point being, great summary. Yeah. So, for example, in Wisconsin, the whole state is voting wings for their representation. And the Wisconsin, House and Senate are just stuffed with GOP folks, even though for presidential elections, it's flip a coin. Michigan was like that. Then we switched from a legislature-assigned process of drawing districts to an independent panel, as in these are not the folks who will be elected into office by the district lines. In 2018, we switched so that they decide. And guess what happened to Michigan, which had been just controlled by Republicans for 14 years before then? All blue. In the following election, it went mostly blue. Then we got just a little taste of what it's like to be led by Democrats. In fact, we had that during a pandemic, and people liked it. People preferred it. We felt safer. Things were handled. All blue in 2022. And now we've enshrined the right to an abortion in our state constitution. We've restored the ability for unions to form and exist. And despite the fact that there's a lot of dummies in Michigan who can't even shave a mustache down without clipping into it, we're doing all right. I think we're going to see similar things happen in Wisconsin if that state can take advantage of the fact that it has a Supreme Court that is going to make sane rulings. But what can you do? Check your own state. Make sure you are not gerrymandered, because that is a great way to ensure that you will never have your voice heard. But also, I would say, look for the gerrymandering. Look for the madness, and see if those two things overlap. And I think you'll find they tend to. And of course, as always, and it's the theme of the show today, ask folks who are on the other side if these are really their principles. And if these are their principles being carried out with gerrymandering, with a non-representative democracy, then are their principles worth having? And they will tell you yes in the moment, and then they'll go home and be haunted by it. And that's really the goal. Make them think. Leon Chevalier asks, would Jake ever do a little phone chat with me or some of my local champions? Oh, yes, he would. As a matter of fact, we're setting up the Discord for that. I got sidetracked with trying to set up to Twitch because I've been convinced that I now have a setup that's able to stream to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. I picked YouTube over Twitch to start on simply because it's a platform that I'm more familiar with, more comfortable with. I understand it, but I have to say, I want to be everywhere I can be. But the point is, we have a Discord that we're setting up, and we should be able to handle even international calls without a problem. So, yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned, my friend. We will set this up. If you would like to get in contact with me, if you want to do like a Zoom call sooner than I can set up the Discord, go to wickednetwork.com. That's WYCDnetwork.com, and you can find my contact information. Or you can just write what you can do at wickednetwork.com. You write that, we can set up a Zoom call. I would love to talk to some of these folks. Cortez Crimson says, whoa, I actually caught the live chat, and of course, I got to clean a kitchen. At least I can listen. Well, Cortez, delighted to have you. Yeah, if you ever want to just leave a comment for me to read on air, you can do so at that same website that I shared at that same email that I shared in the chat. It's whatyoukando@wickednetwork.com. We've had folks sharing clips. We've had folks giving me their take. I certainly appreciate it. And by the way, folks, if you are interested in helping form the show, or at the very least seeing what tomorrow's news is going to be as I'm working on it, which I do at basically all hours of the day. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I got to do this one. Join the lobbyists. Join the Friends of Doris. It costs $5 a month, and I will be using that money to be a sneaky son of a gun and get other lefties on this stream by being clever with super chats. And generally speaking, trying to work to get a decent world built for us. And it will be in my own flawed way, but at the very least, it'll be entertaining to watch me desperately try. There is. Yeah, you know what? We're going to save that CNN analyst video. We might save that for later. I am going to try to do a stream later. We'll see if it comes to be. Where we attempt to get up on Twitch as well. Let me just say, if you haven't liked the stream already, Interesting. If you haven't liked the stream already, do consider giving it a like. I sure would appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, well, we'd love to have you. And if you've got an extra $5 you're willing to toss your old pal Jake every month, I will use it to just viciously promote this. And if you're interested, if you join the lobbyists, as we affectionately call the membership, you will also have access to view the show notes as I'm making them, and you can leave comments, which I'll be able to see. By the way, if that's not working, let me know in the chat, and I will make sure the correct link is shared. But yes, members of the Friends of Doris, as we call them, have access to that document and can watch me as I'm doing the work for the show. You can also see all the ideas that we almost go with and then don't. In the meantime, this has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Jake. We'll see you next time.